All right, hey everybody, what's up? It's Jim Cirile from Coverage Inc., and I am here with Joe Marino. Joe, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
And so Joe just accomplished a pretty amazing feat, and I will let Joe tell you all a little bit about what it is.
Sure. So because of Get Repped Now this year, I was able to sign up with Schemers Entertainment with Gavin Dorman and David Binns.
Yeah,
And I'm very excited, and it wouldn't have happened without these guys. So thank you very much for making it possible, connecting us up.
right on, right on. Congratulations, man. That is a monstrous achievement. It's huge. I mean, obviously we've gotten other people signed before, but this was pretty quick. I think there's only one other time in the 10 years we've been doing this that somebody got signed so quickly. So that's a testament to the writing craft on the page. But before we'll talk a little bit about that, but tell us a little bit about you, your background, where you're from, how you got started writing, all that good stuff.
Sure. So I was one of those weird kids that figured out I liked screenwriting at 11, 12 years old. I came from a really super religious household, wasn't allowed to watch R-rated movies. And of course, being told I wasn't allowed to watch those, I was obsessed with them. And I ended up getting my hands on the Mount Rushmore of R-rated scripts at the time, which was Con Air, The Rock, Face Off, and Air Force One. And I got my hands on them and I read them all over a weekend. And as soon as I was done, and I had the wherewithal, I guess, to be like, oh, at that age, to be like, this is it. Whatever the fuck this is what
What
I'm going
age?
to
What are
do.
we talking?
11, 12, somewhere
Okay,
right around there.
right.
And I never stopped. Like that was kind of locked in, never changed it, never thought of changing around doing novels, kind of was locked in
Wow.
from then on. So it's been a while.
That's
Um,
crazy, man. The fact that you kind of keyed in on that so quickly and found your path so early. I wish I could say the same thing. I'm still trying to figure out my path, but no. That's fantastic, man. Okay, so what did you do to make that happen? I mean, were you writing short stories while you were in high school? What was the process?
I was writing
Or
screenplays
film?
from the sec. So I was doing it, notepad, trying to like, do the margins just by hand for a long time. Did it that way. Uh, One of the earlier Microsoft Word options gave like a really shitty template that would do it for you if you press tab. I was like, oh, shoot, okay, I'm gonna do that. So used that for a long time. Just kept writing it. Didn't share it with anybody for. Didn't share anything I wrote for a while until a random a random guy I came across at a hot dog stand in I think it was Akron, Ohio, was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Zoetrope?" I was like, "No, what's that?" And he was like, "Oh, it's this thing that you have peers that can share scripts with each other, and it's this really great experience. And if you're trying to find other people to read your work and you want to read other people's work, you should do that." So kudos to Hot Dog Man because he was a big reason that I ended up leveling up pretty quickly early on because I started reading, not just, Tarantino, not just the
Yeah,
movies
yeah.
that I loved. I got to read peers and figure out what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do very early on in the process.
So for people who aren't familiar with Zoetrope, just explain real quickly what the process is. You read other people's script, you feedback on them, they read yours, they feedback on it, right?
Yeah, it was one of the first, if not the first, one of the first peer sharing sites that was built by Francis Ford Coppola to try to let writers find each other
Hmm.
and build a peer community. And it wasn't just about, oh, hey, find producers, find managers. It was like, no, first deal with each other, then go out. So it was a
So,
huge help for me.
okay, so college, were you writing in college
Oh
or
yeah, all that. Yep. So most of my earlier writing was based on what I thought I was going to be stuck in, which is, oh well, this is something I love, but I'm never actually going to get to do it. So something I was purely doing for myself because I enjoyed it. And then in college, I wrote a script that ended up getting passed around up just in town to people, not in town, oh, Hollywood, in town, Ohio. And one random person in Ohio was like, uh,
a
Script
little
Shadow.
difference there.
No, I know. As soon as I said, I'm like, I'm gonna edit that.
I'm getting
Somebody was like,
generals all over town. Ohio. Yeah.
there was a guy who loved this website called Script Shadow, and
Hmm.
was like, "Hey, I recommended something to Script Shadow, and he read it and loved that script, and he said if I come across anything else to let him know." Um, I really like this script. Can I share it with Script Shadow? And I was like, yeah. And then Thanksgiving 2012, a review went up that was at the time the best review he had ever given an amateur script, and that started a whole journey for me. Right before I got out of college, I got a manager right out the gate, like within days.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, so how did that whole process work out for you?
Very quickly, very quickly. Um, it was with Brooklyn Weaver with Energy
Sure, sure.
Entertainment,
Yeah.
and wonderful experience. And I moved to LA right out the next semester when I graduated. I moved right to LA, stayed there for a long time,
Hmm.
and then realized, okay, this is not feasible financially. So after I think like 2016, I came back to Ohio to get a day job and continue to do the writing,
Hmm.
and then just put in the work. Put in the work, put in the time. I genuinely was not good. I don't know how I wrote that script that got me attention back then because I was not good. I got lucky in all of the factors of that script, leaning on the few meager skills I had at the time that made me look better than I was. But I think I arguably got genuinely good 2018, 2019.
That's so funny. I can totally relate. I kind of feel the same way about the first couple of scripts that got me signed to William Morris back in the '90s, and I look back on them now and I'm like, how did I ever get signed? I mean, there was nothing there. But hey, a little bit of introspection is good for the soul too. So we can always get better. The next script is always going to be better than the one you just did. That's something a lot of people I think need to learn. All right, let's fast forward a little bit to FEALTY. So let's talk a little bit about FEALTY. What was the impetus to writing that?
Uh, it, for me, I love darker material. I love things that are, Winter's Bone, History of Violence, Blue Ruin, Sling Blade, this very specific Bible Belt aesthetic
Mhm.
of how people in that land, in that category of existence, deal with conflict and violence. And it just feels different from the way people are written when they're from a regular town or regular city. And I've always gravitated towards it. For whatever reason, my skill set seems to lend itself well to it as well. So um, for this, it just seemed like a perfect mesh for a type of story I've never seen before, using a type of kind of story engine that I haven't seen in a film before.
Mhm.
So I got really excited about it, and it just seemed to make sense. Yeah, and thankfully, I think I did a pretty good job.
You did do a pretty good job. Yeah, no, I'll tell you when I was reading it. I mean, everyone here at Coverage Inc. read it and loved it. All of our senior staff, which is what we do with all the considerers. We all read all of them. And as I was reading it, I remember thinking that this is a really tough sell for Hollywood because it deals with topics that are generally considered kind of no go. It's got a rape element, it's got an abuse element, it's got these things in there. To me, it never crossed the line in any way. I always saw it as something that could be a real star vehicle for a young female actress, and I thought that it's definitely awards bait. So even as I was reading it, I kept like eagerly turning the pages because the tension just kept building and building, which is something I thought you did really well, even though I knew in the back of my mind this is going to be a tough sell. But it was one of those ones that it was so compelling that we had to elevate it. It was definitely a consider, and I'm glad that the managers responded. It wasn't just Gavin; quite a few others responded to it as well. And basically, everybody said the same thing: incredible writing talent on the page. I don't know if I can sell this, but this guy is definitely worth representing. So, talk a little bit about your conversation with Gavin, how that came about so quickly. I know you had a couple of other generals as well, right?
Yeah, no, everybody who I spoke to was very enthusiastic, very kind. Um, and but for Gavin, it just felt like we were speaking the exact same language. And what I really appreciated super early on was how he was presenting certain ideas. It was like he was expecting me to fight back or like be like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a part of that." And for me, I was like, "Oh, no, I actually love that. That sounds exactly like something I'm interested in." So there was a really nice banter that kind of built up in just talking about the balance that's required for, not because, everybody could just talk about the craft versus the business.
Sure.
But there's this whole other side of it where it's like, when you're really getting down to it, there's almost a math to screenwriting where you can have 90 different equations that would give you right about the same answer. But when it really gets interesting, when it really elevates, is what's the best mathematical equation to build the theory of what you're trying to do. Of all the things you could do, what's the way to build it? So it just made a lot of sense with his principles on how he wants to look at story, what he kind of pushes for, what he pushes against, what he gets excited about in the creative process. So everything he was saying, I was really excited about.
For the sake of brevity, let's just wrap this up. Any sort of parting comments or advice that you'd like to give to other people who might find themselves in the same position you were at, let's say, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, on the verge of moving back home, anything like that, any sort of motivating anything?
Sure. So for me, because, I kind of had this opportunity that looked like it was going to be a really big deal when I was 21, essentially. And, back then I was like, oh, they said this was hard. I got this. How did they say this was hard? And then, of course, life came in with, okay, we're gonna kick your ass a little bit for having that perspective. Right. So, but whenever you think you have something and then you get pulled back and you have to start from scratch in any way, I think there's a level of depression that you just have to fight through. And I know for me, every writer thinks that they suck, no matter who it is. Like, it's just so easy to be like, oh, there's better writers, there's more determined writers or more educated writers. And for me, I think the thing that made me feel stronger and made me continue to sit down and put in the work was, yeah, they can do that thing. But if I could do my thing and just put in the hours and put in the dedication, I can be just as good at my thing as they are at their thing. I just have to put in the work. And until I put in the work, I'm always going to look at them as being on a pedestal. And I need to get to the level where I don't see the pedestal anymore.
I just want to say congrats again. And, I expect greatness. No pressure.
Well, thank you for getting this building block on the, just the next building block that I needed to get to where I needed to be. And thank you for believing in me. And I am excited to prove you right.
Right on. Joe Marino. All right. Go get him.